Welcome inside Black and Gold. Steve Geller and Jeff Nowak gearing up for Week 10 of the NFL season. Our Black and Gold taking a road trip to Minnesota. We're not quite ready to break all that down yet. We got plenty of other Saints stuff to get into. How's it going, Jeff?
Good. This is the first time in a while we've had like a home schedule that we've been able to do a kind of a midweek like catch-up episode, so that I can actually look back at the game and have time to like assess it and then talk about it to people, which it's kind of nice. I'm enjoying it. Hold on one second.
I like the fact that we were able to record the day of the game, which post game kind of thing, and that's typically not the easiest thing to do with our schedules.
Yeah, it's just nice to be able to react in real time as opposed to like I don't know, kind of that like gut reaction is kind of nice. And when I have to do it the next day, I don't feel like I'm giving people the right level of angst that should exist in that scenario. But yeah, so this episode, I want to kind of, I went through the film. I have some notes on that. That'll be in the second segment. This first segment, I want to answer some questions because this has been an interesting week in terms of there were a lot of decisions made in that game that people have questioned, that we've asked Dennis Allen about, that he's answered, that you don't have to agree with the answer, but I'm going to tell you what he said and whether it makes sense or not. So we're going to get into that, stuff like why go for it on 4th and inches? Is that the smart move? Whatever. We're going to do that. And then in the final segment, I just want to get into a topic that is kind of, I don't know, near and dear to my heart in terms of it annoys the hell out of me. It's like, should Saints fans be happy right now? Should there be this level of just vitriol toward every single thing that happens? Whoa, the kicker misses another kick, cut him immediately. Anyone is better. Is it? Anyway, stuff like that. I don't know. You're talking about a 5-4 team that's leading its division. Yet if you went on social media or you kind of just went on a, Saints Reddit or whatever, you would assume that this season is in flames. And anyway, we'll talk about that. But the first thing I want to get into, and this is a topic that I was actually kind of surprised about in terms of, I think that Dennis Allen would typically be criticized for being too conservative when it comes to 4th down decisions, punting from the 39-yard line. He's done that twice in the last 2 weeks. I hate it. I hate everything about it. It actually worked this week, but I still hate it. But this week, 4th and inches, you're up 7, you're at the 17-yard line, and he decided to go for it. And, like one thing that annoys me is from an analysis perspective, and I've talked about this at length. For example, no one complained about the Rashid Shaheed deep shot on 3rd and 13 because it worked.
Right.
And just conventional wisdom would say, why don't you just run it, force him to use a timeout, and then kick it and make him drive the field down 8. Well, the Saints went for it, and I didn't hear a peep about how that was the dumb decision, right? And here we are in 4th and inches. What's the success rate on 4th and inches? It's got to be well above 50%, probably closer to 80 in terms of all you have to do is, put the ball down, put the ball in your chest and plow forward. I think in my personal opinion, I think the analytics would back me up here. Anytime you are in plus territory and a field goal is not going to give you the lead, if you have the lead, or it's not like the win-loss scenario, the risk-reward scenario, that's what I was going for. It's on your side. You have the lead either way. You are deep in their territory. Go for it. Like if he had kicked that field goal, it's like, yeah, sure, you go up 10. I would have hated that decision. So just because it didn't work, I am not going to say it was the wrong decision. I am going to stay consistent and say, I want him to go in that scenario. I don't want to see these cowardly field goal attempts from inside the 20. Anytime you have 4th and inches in the red zone, you should be going for it. Now, there's some differing opinions on whether you should, but personally, and I think analytically, I'm going to tell you that that's the right call to make.
I definitely didn't have a problem with either the scenario, and especially to me, you're at home, and I think you can take a little bit more of those gambles when you are at home and you feel like you have that home team advantage, obviously. So yeah, and like you said, you're ahead in that situation. I definitely wasn't critical of the team in that spot.
Yeah, and so like the question, like it annoys me because it's the low hanging fruit, but the bigger question is why didn't you get it, right?
Yeah.
And so first off, I think they got hosed on the spot twice, which that's another situation. I don't think that you should have challenged it because I don't think they would have overturned either because it's so difficult when it comes to spots on the field, even though the refs actually did change a spot in this game on a challenge. But when it comes to spot, particularly in the sneak scenario where it's just impossible, you're not going to have a point of reference in any video clip. So it's like, oh, where's the ball? Where's his knee? Where's his ankle? It's impossible. So once they don't give it to you, you're pretty much just out of luck. But, so the question becomes, why sneak it? There's a few questions there. It's, should Taysom Hill be the one who sneaks the ball, first of all, when you're going to run a sneak? Or should you run a different play, right? Should you run QB power? Now, one thing that is important to understand is in those situations, a lot of times you will see the offensive team run up to the ball and snap it quickly because the defense doesn't have time to get set. They can't sub, whatever. For some reason, the refs stood over the ball and prevented the Saints from doing that, but the Saints didn't sub. So I almost said Colts. The Bears weren't allowed to sub either. Taysom Hill wasn't on the field for that third down. So the Saints' plan was, okay, we're going to get up to the line quickly. We're going to run it because, that's typically a way that you can get those plays done a lot easier. Those are much more difficult plays to execute when the other team is able to stack the line with the big guys and whatever. So in order to get Taysom Hill on the field, you would have had to sub, which would have allowed them to sub. So if your goal was to run that sneak play with some pressure, with them having to rush and get lined up, then you couldn't have Taysom Hill on the field. So, just in the sense of if that was the goal, was to catch him off guard, that prevented Taysom from being on the field. The other thing to consider, Taysom Hill does not take snaps from under center. And that quarterback center exchange, I think people take for granted how easy it is to execute. Taysom Hill just doesn't do it. When he's on the field, when he's playing quarterback, he's in the shotgun. That's how he receives the ball. So for him to go up there under center, that's the first time he's done that in how long? Actually, I can tell you, the last time they tried to do it was week 15 against the Falcons. 4th and inches, very similar scenario. They tried to sneak it with Taysom and win the game. You know what happened? He fumbled.
Ouch.
And so, I think you're thinking about that when you're talking about, okay, does it make sense to put him under center? And I've had people say, well, they should practice it more. And I'm like, sure, maybe they should practice it more. But it's impossible to practice that scenario. You don't have defensive linemen trying to blow you up in practice. You're not allowed to do that. You don't have that level of contact in practice. So the only way to get that live rep would be to do it in games. And that happens so infrequently that you would always be going into it worried that he's just not feeling comfortable with that snap. And when you're in those situations, it's very high leverage. It's either you get it or it's a turnover. So is that the situation you want to be putting Taysom Hill in there with the idea that's I don't feel really comfortable with this right now because I don't do it very often? Probably not. So to me, that putting Taysom under center is a non-starter. I think that if you're going to go for that, you put Taysom in and run QB power and get it done until they stop it. Because I think that you have a better chance. I mean, percentages wise, probably sneaks are more effective. I just don't think Derek Carr is particularly good at sneaks. Some quarterbacks are better at than others. And I don't think that's a strength of Derek Carr's. And so would you be better off going with Taysom there? Probably yes. So that's a long way to get to the idea that if I'm running that 4th and inches play, I want my best 4th and inches play. I don't want to rely on, they weren't able to get set quickly. I want Taysom Hill in there. And I want Colin Saunders as the lead blocker. And I want to see, can you stop Taysom from getting 3 inches? And if you can, good on you. But to me, that's where I land. I think it was a good decision to go for it. I question the idea of a sneak.
Yeah, especially a quarterback, that was dealing with a shoulder injury earlier this season. I was surprised they did that in general, just to put Carr even in that risk. I know it, we see that all the time from QBs doing this in the NFL, but yeah, I haven't really delved into Carr's, I guess, success rate as doing the QB sneaks. But to me, it seems like Taysom would be that perfect fit there. It seems to go hand in hand, obviously, but makes sense that they couldn't make that substitution at that point.
Yeah,
well, they could have, but then, like you said, you're giving the Bears also the opportunity.
Right. If the idea was you're going to gain an advantage by going fast, then you couldn't sub and also go fast. So I mean, I understand. Like, I'm just telling you what Dennis Allen said. I'm not telling you that it's the right way to go about it, but I do agree with the idea to go for it. The other interesting decision that we asked about was 3rd and 2 down at the goal line. I'm sorry, 4th and 2 down in the red zone. The Saints opted to accept a holding penalty and knock it back to 3rd and 12. And a lot of people will say, well, why? They were going to kick a field goal. And Dennis Allen, if you ask him, will say, I think they were going to go for it. And, there's a few schools of thought there. I kind of think, I actually, I had one person commenting on YouTube saying, no coach is ever going to go for it there. They're going to kick the field goal. And it's like, I don't know if you haven't watched football since like 2006, but coaches go for it on 4th down all the time now. It is not an unusual thing, particularly in a game where you feel like you're probably going to struggle to score some points. They know they're not going to win that game kicking field goals. And the Saints hadn't stopped them all day. Why wouldn't they go for it? Anyway, I actually think that you're probably correct, or Dennis Allen's probably correct that they were going to go for it. But the question I have is, wouldn't you be better off trying to defend a 4th and 2 than a 3rd and 12, in the sense that if you stop them on 4th and 2, then you prevent all points? So I think the equation there is different than people are looking at it. Like, I don't think you're saying it cost them 4 points by pushing them back. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think they were going to go for it. But it did cost you a chance to get off the field with 0 points. And I would much rather take the odds at 0 and stopping them on 4th and 2 than 3rd and 12, where best case scenario, you stop them anyway and they kick a field goal. So, I understand the logic behind accepting the penalty, but I also don't think that it's the right decision.
See, I was okay with it just for the fact that I figured too, obviously Chicago's going to go for it. They got nothing to lose. They're trying to, do whatever they can to get, points right now too. Like you mentioned, any opportunity down there. And with the Saints though, it's like, for me, it was that Chicago run game was having so much success early on.
Sure.
I kind of understood the pushing in the back and taking the yardage, but that was definitely something that ignited social media immediately when that occurred.
Yeah, and but it's funny because like I kind of agree with the idea that you shouldn't have taken that penalty, but not for the reason that everyone's saying, which is like they were going to kick a field goal. I don't think they were.
Right.
I mean, again, like we talked for the same reason, I think going for it on 4th and inches is the right call. I think the Bears would have looked at it and said, "Yeah, we're down in the red zone. We don't get down here that often. Let's score a touchdown." And it's funny because a lot like the logic you could use to say 3rd and 12 is better off is they have a rookie quarterback and you're putting it in his hands and you want to force him to try to make something happen. Right. Try to force a ball into coverage and throw an interception. I mean, he threw 3 in the game. He should have thrown 1 earlier, because that touchdown to Cole Kmet was literally just, he threw it to Tyrann Mathieu and Cole Kmet caught it through Tyrann Mathieu. Which Cole Kmet had a great game. I'm a big Cole Kmet fan now. I didn't even know who he was going into the game, really. All I knew is they dropped a bag on him a year ago, and Brian Kelly coached him at Notre Dame. And man, he's good. Anyway, but like that's the logic that makes sense. Is okay. I want to force the rookie UDFA quarterback to make a play, and unfortunately for the Saints, he did that in the way that is driving everybody, including Dennis Allen, nuts. The Saints tried to rush him. And as they rushed him, it was 4 guys trying to get a sack and not 4 guys trying to rush the quarterback. And this time, I posted a tweet of Brian Brzee, and he had a play. I think it was in the first half. I think it was the second drive. It was actually the drive that Paulson Debo got the interception on a ball targeting Cole Kmet. And in that drive, it was 2nd and 10 down by the goal line, and he's trying to spin move. He's trying to get upfield, and he just gets pushed all the way to the right. Malcolm Roach also goes outside on his defender, and you just leave this gaping hole, 20 yards, right? And I don't want it to seem like I think that was a rookie mistake by Brian Brzee. And it's one of the things I'm pointing out. Like, one of the reasons it's tough to get him on the field more is because you see mistakes like that, and you need to avoid that. But I don't want that tweet to make it seem like Brian Brzee is the only one who was screwing up. Because on that 3rd and 12 play, Carl Granderson, Tano Passanio run a stunt. Carl Granderson goes inside, Tano goes outside, and Carl, he needs to stay in that rush lane. But instead, he's just head on fire trying to get after the quarterback, and he ends up rushing on line with Brian Brzee. If you go back and watch that play, Brian Brzee and Carl Granderson are literally stacked. And then there's this giant hole for Tyson Bagent to get out of. And like, you know, we can quibble with a lot of decisions. We can say, man, this is a problem and he shouldn't have taken that penalty. But at the end of the day, what the hell was that? You know, like what kind of play are you making there? And so like that's why like Dennis Allen goes up to the podium and he kind of sounds pissed off about a win. And I understand it because I'm, you know, you watch that back and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was definitely frustrating from so many aspects, and you didn't even bring over. Obviously, we mentioned this in the post game show: 5 takeaways, and you only win by 7. That doesn't compute.
I agree. Yeah, and again, like that 4th and inches call, that's a part of it, right? Like if they get that, if they convert that, then it's definitely another 3 points, probably another 7. That field goal, right? So you're looking at it and saying, man, if they just converted on that 4th down and didn't miss a 47-yard field goal, they have 30 points on the board. And suddenly we're talking about, okay, back-to-back 30-point games from this offense that couldn't crack 20 for the first half of the season or the first 6 weeks of the season. So, I mean, so since week 5, you would have scored 30 points in 3 games. So in 3 of your 4. So I don't know. Anyway, like I think that's also overplayed in the sense that you won by a touchdown. It's not like you had to scratch it out. Like they never even they didn't run a play. So I looked this up.
Right, you did. Okay, I was gonna say. I know you mentioned this that they didn't cross the 50 after half.
I think it was the 2:41 mark in the 3rd quarter. Wow. Not only did the Bears not cross the 50, there wasn't a single play run in Saints territory other than a kickoff. Think about that. Like every Saints play was in Bears territory and every Bears play was in Bears territory.
Wow.
Which is, I've never seen that. That's crazy. Like I've seen games where like the Raiders game where the Saints shut them out. I don't think they crossed midfield until the 4th quarter when the backup was in.
Yeah.
But like the Saints ran plays on their side of the field, right? Like that's crazy. Anyway, one other thing that I do want to get into before we move on to the film notes is the question: are the Saints going to work out kickers? And Dennis Allen was asked specifically about that in his press conference on Monday, and he said no, or at least, you know, I take that back. He didn't rule it out, and so let's just play that audio right here.
Yeah, look, listen. I mean, this grown man's league. You know what I mean? And so we're not worried about anybody's feelings right now. You know, look, Blake's got a job to do. He's got to kick it through the post, and he understands that. And look, it's the whole operation. There's a lot of things that go into it. A lot of times, everybody just looks at the field goal kicker and did he make it or not. You know, there's a lot of things that go into that. You know, you got a snap, you got a hold, you got a protection. You know, so a lot of different things go into that. So, and I've seen some really good kickers in our league that, you know, have had some inconsistencies as a rookie, and teams move on from them and they go to different spots and have great careers. So, look, we have confidence in Blake but yet we're look. I think you have to evaluate those things. You have to pay attention to it.
What you're hearing there is no, what we've seen is not acceptable. It's got to get better, right? Like that's the first part. And they're not going to keep Blake around just because they feel bad for him and he's 12 years old. He's an adult, regardless of the height, weight, and when you see him next to NFL players, he looks like a toddler. But you got to get better, right? And I think that they do think that he will get better. And one thing that they've said multiple times, Mickey has said this, Dennis has said this, is that rookie kickers kind of struggle at points. And then you've seen so many examples of a rookie kicker getting passed on by the team and going on somewhere else and having a lot of success. And he's not wrong. But that was the deal when you brought in a rookie. And that's the frustrating part, is it's like you're looking at it now, and I understand why people are annoyed, but that's a rookie kicker. You're talking about a rookie kicker. And that's why when they went with a rookie kicker, I was like, why are you going with a rookie kicker when you don't have to? Like we talk about it as if like they're in the position that the Packers are in, and Mason Crosby retired after 20 years, and they're like, well, we got to figure out something now. You didn't have to do that. You chose to do that. And that's what pisses me off. That said, I don't think they're going to bring in kickers, at least not this week. I think this week up in Minnesota is huge for the future of Blake Grupe as this New Orleans Saints place kicker. Because if he goes up there and misses, if he misses a 50-plus yarder, fine. It's like it's our fault for putting you in that situation. He had a 55-yarder this week. Yeah. He hit 2 in New England, so we know we can do it. But if he goes out there and he misses again from like 45 or 39 or 29, and he just looks like he's in his own head, then you have 2 weeks, that bye week. You better be looking at kickers because you can't afford to lose games because of that. And so like I think this is kind of his if he goes out there and looks atrocious in Minnesota, I think he's done.
I was going to say, what's so atrocious to you? Would it be just any miss below 50?
Nah, yeah, I mean it's tough, right? Like it's more just about like the confidence I have in him as a kicker.
Right.
Like he can say he's 9 for 9 on PATs, but I watched that ball go off the upright. That doesn't make me feel good about it. Right? That 55-yarder, he hit it from a ways out, but it didn't split the middle by any stretch, right? Like I want to see him do what he did in training camp, which is, man, no doubters. And like, cause I don't want to have to wonder if I need a kick to win a game and where's that target line going to be?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. They put that on the field. But they only put like the maximum distance on there. They don't put, okay, he can make it from this far, but I'm pretty sure if we don't get him within 45,
right.
And that's, you can't be there. And to me, that's the difference is I want that confidence level to be high so that in the game, and this is a big thing. And I don't think people think about it this way, but this is a huge thing. It affects how you manage the game, right? Like it affects your decision-making from a play calling perspective, from a head coach perspective, in terms of go for it, kick decisions, right? It affects how you go about the game, and the game plays out differently when you trust your kicker versus when you don't trust your kicker. And I don't want for this team to be in a situation where, okay, we would have kicked that if we thought he could make it, but we just watched him miss from 47. So unless we can get him on inside 42, I don't want to kick it. And part of that's on Darren Rizzi. He's going to have to make those decisions. All I know is they're not bringing in a kicker right now. This week is not the week that they're going to be trying out kickers, but they're going to have if he has a rough day in Minnesota, that's going to be a long 2 weeks to sit with it and be like, yeah, this is the way to go. So that's all I got there. And I think that's the answer to the question right now. Are the Saints going to bring in any kickers? As of now,
no. But yeah, I agree with you totally. If things go awry in Minnesota and Grupe looks gross again, then yeah, we'll be hearing about during the bye week. You think you'll be chilling and enjoying your downtime, and it'll be like, oh, I gotta report about 2-3 kickers coming in to work out.
Right. Yeah, not a lot of groupies.
Right. No, for sure.
The funny thing is the other thing that's actually bugged me more so than the misses themselves is that they've come indoors, and the miss in Green Bay, you could be like, it's outdoors. He's not used to dealing with wind. It's a natural grass field. It's a little different. His first miss of his career, I think. But the last 4, he's missed 5 kicks in 9 games. Can't do that.
And I'm pretty sure still the shortest miss of the NFL season too, I still believe.
Yeah, 29. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so I just think like that's the biggest concern because you play so many of your games indoors. Like if you had a kicker and you were like, yeah, he struggles in the wind. Doesn't do it a lot, so it's not the strongest point of his game. But you get him inside and he's automatic. And for a team that plays indoors, I can live with it.
Right.
But there's no excuse for missing indoors. Like, the air conditioning was too high. Like the breeze from some of the yelling is kind of, no, that doesn't exist. So you got to be better. And I'd like to think he will be, but the problem is I just have like it. You saw, he missed that kick in Green Bay. He went up to New England and he made those 250-yard. He was the NFC friggin' special teams player of the week.
Right, you're dead on, right?
And then it's like, oh, okay, good. Like he missed that, but he bounced back, great. And then next week in Houston, it's like, what the hell?
It's almost feels like he's had a miss in just about every game. I'd have to look at it though. I know that's not right.
Right, he didn't miss in New England. But yeah, he missed two against the Texans. He missed
obviously week 1 he didn't.
No, or week 2. He didn't miss against the Colts, but he only had one attempt from like 20 yards out.
Right, exactly.
So the misses. I can tell you the misses. I remember the misses. Right. So he missed from, I want to say it was 48 in Green Bay. He missed from, I think it was 52 in Houston. That was in the first half. He missed from 29 in Houston. That was in the second half.
And
he missed again from 50 plus against the Jaguars. And then he also, the extra point in the second half, clanked it off the upright, but it went in. But I remember it. It's still in there. Still rattling around. Then what the next week was the Colts. And again, so he didn't miss that. And then in this game, he hit from 55 and then he missed from 47. Those are all of his misses. And when you look at it like that, it's like, okay, yeah, kickers aren't going to make every kick. It's the 29 and the 47. Not in the 48, obviously, because of the situation. Like, those are the ones that have to be automatic. I don't really care. I care, but I can understand it's the cost of doing business when you settle for a 50-yarder. Sometimes you miss. You cannot accept missed 47-yard field goals in clutch moments.
No, but like we heard from DA, it definitely seems like they're willing to stick with the rookie through some of these growing pains, I guess you want to call them. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean we can move on. We've talked about this for a while, but again, I think I said this after the game. It's like the idea, like there's people out there like, just cut him, just get rid of him. Anyone would be better. And I need you to understand that is not true. That is absolutely not true. It's like 2021 never happened, and people have completely wiped it from their brains. But I remember it vividly.
Yeah, right.
I remember Cody Parkey missing multiple extra points in that game in Washington that the Saints won, and they got cut on the way home. I remember that. So it can 1,000% get worse. And the Saints are not going to change kickers unless they feel like they have no other option. And right now, I think they have the option to stay the course, and they're going to do it.
No, so yeah, stick with being a groupie for now, and then if things go awry with Minnesota, then maybe the pitchforks and flames can come out.
It's an exclusive club right now. But all right, let's wrap that segment up. We're going to come back. We're going to go through some film notes. There's a couple more questions that we didn't get to in this segment that will work well there. So let's do that. This is Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Steve Geller. You can check me out on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. He's at Steve Geller WWL. You can follow the show at Saints_pod. You can also follow Steve on the radio at WWL AM 870 FM 1053 and always on the Audacy app. You see right there.
Ooh, that branding.
Yeah. And obviously WWL.com is a place you can go on the internet. There's stuff there. Maybe there's games. There isn't. But
there's no games.
No, there's no games. But you can play games on your cell phone while you end up there. So it's basically like we have like Minesweeper and stuff like that. Like that old pinball. Do you remember that old pinball game that was on like all the computers? There was like Minesweeper free cell in that weird pinball game.
Yes.
I was good at that.
I was terrible with Minesweeper. It always pissed me off. Did
you not know the rules?
I did, but I still was never good at it.
All right. Yeah, that's a loss. I don't think anyone on TikTok is going to be like also knowing the rules to Minesweeper. So it's like one of those things that we have as old people.
Yeah, I was more of the snake and solitaire guy.
Snake. I remember the snake on my old brick phone. It's the only thing it could manage. Anyway, this is Inside Black and Gold. Stick around. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He is Steve Geller. And, I like I said in the first segment, I was excited to be able to go through the film and have time to come back on here and talk about it. Because on the road trips, it's really tough. And on Thursday Night Football, it's like, man, we're already on to the next week. But, this film, it wasn't as it wasn't as disappointing of an experience as I thought it would be because there were a lot of weird moments in this game. And one thing that happened after the game, and we talked about it, is Dennis Allen is tired of hearing your questions about halftime adjustments.
Halftime adjustments are over freaking rated. All right, stop.
I can get on board with that because you're not making adjustments when there was one play. There was a DJ Moore play. I'm sorry, Darnell Mooney play where he got the ball, gets to the sideline. There's 3 players. I think it was Demario Davis, Paulson Adebo, and maybe Marcus May. I'd have to double check. There were 3 players. They were basically standing in a line parallel to each other. And it was like, oh, he's going to get stopped for a loss. Well, he puts his foot in the ground and cuts back inside. And it was basically like a Three Stooges moment where they all run into each other. And he's gone for 38 yards. It was the final play of the first quarter. 38 yards on a play that should have gone for 4. And it's like, you think they're going into halftime and being like, okay, we gotta do this differently. What do we do wrong? We gotta fix it. It's like, no, the adjustment is make the goddamn tackle. You ingrates. And so yeah, like I would be annoyed too because it's like there isn't this magic formula to fix stuff like that. You gotta just play better. You gotta understand what your job is and do it. And so like I think it's funny because I hear those questions all the time. And like I'm at all these press conferences and the same question gets asked. Oh, what are the adjustments? And it's like they played like shit and then they did it. That's the adjustment. And you can see it on film. It's clear on film. They played horribly in that first half.
Oh man.
There were so many.
It was unbelievable. Like I said, the 100 rushing yards given up in that first half was just made me want to vomit for sure.
Yeah, and so one thing that I think has been an issue that we've kind of overlooked is the communication between the Mike linebacker and whether it's the Sam linebacker or the slot corner, whatever it is, whether it's Alante, whether it's Marcus May, that has not been very good. And you've seen a lot of mistakes in terms of, okay, this guy wants to pass it off to this guy, but he doesn't understand what he's supposed to be doing, and he covers the wrong guy. And then there's 2 guys on one, and DJ Moore is by himself. Right. And that's happened too much. And you see that on film. And so I think when you're talking about adjustments, I think that is one you look at and say, how do we fix that communication? Because there were several instances in this game where, you know, it just looked like it's like you had the numbers, you just didn't do it.
Yeah, the question, obviously, you know, you mentioned those halftime adjustments, and why the reason he's asked about it so much is for what it's been like 3-4 straight games now. The team looks completely different after the half and plays much more stout defense, and it does not register. So it seems like there's either this big rah-rah speech in the locker room, or they go through something and see something that's like, all right, we got to change this. But no, it's just them being, you know, more precise with their keys and like you said, making a tackle when you need to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there are some pretty loud things said in the locker room at halftime, but it's not like
get your freaking head on straight, right?
Right. There's a lot of curse words, and you know, but yeah, and so I don't know. I do think it's interesting. And one thing they did in this game that I thought was interesting is they played a lot of zone. You saw them come out early in zone, and I think it worked at points. But like, for example, you know, sometimes good offense just beats good defense. And the 2 Cole Kmet touchdowns, which again, I think I mentioned this, like Cole Kmet is on a pretty big contract. They paid him like 4 years, $50 million, which for a tight end, that's a pretty big deal. And it's funny because you don't think of him in the same kind of category as Travis Kelce or George Kittle, you know, guys like that, right? Like Zach Ertz, even. I guess he's a little older, but Dallas Goedert, you talk about him. But like the plays he made in that game were impressive. And like I went and watched the first touchdown, and I was like, okay, who screwed up? Someone screwed up, right? Someone had to screw up. And then you watch it, and I'm like, man, they played it perfectly. They did exactly what you want. Everyone was accounted for. They had Zach Bond was a free rusher at Taysom Bagent. He had to just throw it up. He's like, well, Cole's down there. He's tall. But like Matthew was literally standing there ready to intercept it. And the only thing that didn't work is Cole Kmet is really good. And he just went up and took it. And it's funny, and because it's like everyone wants to diagnose it and say, well, this guy's screwed up. He's not playing well enough. He's not doing. And it's like sometimes the offense just wins. And that's what happened there. And I think that's what happened a couple times early in this game. The second Cole Kmet touchdown was interesting too, because and I tweeted it and then I thought better of it because I'm not sure and I want to double check. But so actually no, different thing. There was another play that Cole Kmet was a pick, and it worked perfectly because he blew up the play, and that was DJ Moore was wide open. But the other touchdown, he comes out and like blocks, and Zach Baun is right there, and Zach Baun's like, I got this, and just grabs him because you're within 1 yard. You can do anything within 1 yard.
Right.
If you're 1 yard downfield, then it is illegal. But he grabs him and just chucks him to the ground, and then goes and catches a touchdown. And it's like, man, what a play by that guy. Anyway, it's like you want to say like, well, this guy screwed up. And I'm like, no, the guy is just better than you. And you won. And,
no, you bring it up now, and that was definitely one of the complaints or observations, whatever you want to say, in the post-game show on WWL after that matchup. We were getting of folks complaining, has Tyron, are we seeing the end of him? Has he lost a step? And I remember those questions were being asked last year as well.
Well, I mean, like he's in perfect position. I mean, but he's still 5'7" or whatever. Like
right,
that's
he's not going to grow any. So I'm sorry.
Yes, I mean, I don't know what It's funny because it's the second time since he's gotten here that you've seen that he has been in perfect position to make a play, and he kind of does, but it ends up being a touchdown anyway. Remember Juwan Jennings last year where he got like his full hand on the ball and like tipped it up into the air, and then it just fell into Juwan Jennings' lap for a touchdown against the 49ers, a game where they only scored 13, and that was 7 of it.
That was
anyway
another one of those moments of last year you think about and you're like, of course this happens to the Saints kind of thing. But that's another thing I found funny too. It's like, I love the fact that now, when you start winning, the Saints on a 2-game win streak, watch out. Like Bears fans complaining, oh, those Saints, they always get the calls from the refs. Excuse me?
Yeah. So a couple other film notes. So one other question, why didn't Mike Thomas catch any passes? And it's a good question because I looked this up. He had never previously in his career had a regular season game where he was active and did not catch at least 2 passes, not 1. He's never had a game where he caught less than 2 passes in the regular season prior to this one. Now, there is an asterisk there, which is the 2020 divisional round against the Bucs. He also didn't have a catch. But as we know now, he was basically playing on one leg, right? So, like, that's a little bit of an exception.
Exactly. He was just out there to try and help Drew, obviously advance and the team.
I mean, yeah, he was doing everything he could, but like, he missed the next 2 seasons. It's not like it wasn't like he's faking it. Like he literally missed 2 full seasons of football because it got so bad. And part of the reason is because he tried to play through anyway. So that's that game. But so you go back and watch, and you're like, okay, there must have been opportunities to get him the ball, and and there were, right. Like he should have had a catch or 2. One play they fouled him, so like he got targeted once technically, but there was another throw that drew a penalty. So that kind of goes in his column, right? That's a win for him. The other one was just unsuccessful. But you look at it and you watch and you say, okay, they are paying him so much attention in this game. Like you're seeing him bracketed. That the touchdown pass to Chris Olave, I think Derek Carr talked about this in the post game. The safety is just doubling Mike off the snap. Like there's no question. There's no disguise there at all. It is just a double team on Mike. And that means you got one man-to-man with Chris Olave. And Chris won, touchdown. And so, like, if they're going to do that and they're going to give you one-on-one coverage, forcing the ball to Mike doesn't make sense. Like, I get it. You want to get Mike involved. But if they're going to take him away and you feel like you have the weapons, like that's the difference between 2019 and now, when they would double Mike, but he's still your best option. Now they double Mike, and you're like, well, I could throw it to Taysom. I could throw it to Juwan. I could throw it to Chris, right? Like the progression is being run. Whereas like, it's like that wasn't always the luxury you had when it was Ted Ginn on the other side. And I think, I asked Derek about this in the post game, And I thought his answer was pretty telling in that regard. And here's that. Post-game.
Well, it's one of the things that, you know, I could go out there and probably do 2 or 3 plays back and try and force a ball and see, make a tight window throw, and I have all the confidence that I can do it. But at the end of the day, playing with this defense, I know over time that if I can take care of the football and if we can as an offense hold on to it and do those things, that those numbers begin to turn into wins. And you always see at the end of the year, takeaway differential, and you see the teams at the top have a bigger takeaway differential and the teams at the bottom don't, and it's the opposite. And so for me, coming here and playing here, I just want to be as efficient and clean as possible. And there's going to be games that will be tight, and when they're tight, you got to take care of the ball and just give us a chance at the end. And then when you have to make that throw, you make that throw. But there's a couple of times today where I didn't have to do that because what's happening on the other side of the ball. And so the ultimate goal is to win the football game. And, it takes all 3 phases playing together. And so I just try and do that to my best to help DA and those guys out.
To me, what he's saying there is like, yes, there were throws to be made to Mike. And you can see that on film. Like there was a couple. There was one early, I think it was the second offensive play of the second half, where Mike's coming on a crossing route and he's going to come open. Derek gets some pressure. He had the option to maybe stand in there, take a hit and deliver it early and let Mike run under it. He rolls out, probably still could have rifled it in, but you can see the safety crashing down. It would have been a tight window throw. Maybe gets bumped up into the air. You're at your own 25-yard line. It's not like you are at midfield. So a turnover there in a tie game is massive. And I said this going in, and I think it played out pretty well, is, the Saints are approaching this game as similarly to how they approached the Broncos game a couple years ago and how they approached the Jets game 2 years ago, in that if they're going to beat me, their offense has to beat me. I am not going to allow their defense to beat me. I need Tyson Bagent to come out there and beat me. And you know how you can allow the defense to beat you? By forcing tight window throws deep in your own territory. Because, we've seen that. We saw it against the Jags, right? Like that touchdown, that defensive touchdown against the Jags is a very big reason you lost that game. And so, I think that there's something to be said for 4 interceptions through 9 games. That's not for nothing, right? Like that's helped you win. That's why you're +8 in the turnover margin. So, like, I think when you kind of watch this back and you see it, and you'll see screenshots, people will share screenshots saying, oh, he was open here. He was open here. It's like, yeah, probably. But I also think that there's something to be said for, playing conservatively in a game where throwing caution to the wind and turning it over is probably the only way you're going to lose.
Yeah, that was definitely, I thought, a big belief. Yeah, you were going to play pretty conservative ball against a Bear squad that was having, I know they were both averaging 21.4 points a game going into the matchup, but the Saints had come alive offensively a lot more than the Bears in the last few games, and were definitely trending upwards, while the Bears, obviously with Taysom Bagent at quarterback, wasn't expecting to do much, and you figured, why give them any extra kind of opportunities? Don't have to be so aggressive in this matchup. They're going to beat themselves, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not all that. Like there were, Derek didn't make perfect reads all day. There were opportunities where he could have potentially got Mike Thomas the ball. There was one, and this isn't Mike Thomas, but A.T. Perry, he hasn't caught a pass in the NFL yet, but he was a shoelace away. And I tweeted this video, and you can go look at it. He was a shoelace away from possibly a 75-yard touchdown in this game, because he's running kind of a deep corner route, and the DB to his side thinks he's running a comeback. He's playing the comeback, but AT never stops. And so the defender goes back, he breaks back, and AT's still running. And the only reason he did not, and Derek rolled out. So like that was basically, it was a half field read. It was the only throw he could have made other than what he ended up doing, which is dumping it down to Foster Moreau for a decent gain. But the reason it didn't go to AT is that their feet got tangled up when the defender broke off and he fell. Otherwise, I mean, that's a huge, he might have get chased down. AT's not exactly Tyreek Hill. That's a long way to run.
He just had a lot of you're talking ahead of him.
Yeah, you're talking 40, 50 yards on that play minimum. And that's a bummer. But it is good to see AT involved. That is one thing that on film you can see. It's like they're using AT a little bit more. I don't know what his snap count was, but he, that like they're working him in, which is good. We're seen them gradually include the rookies. So like that's something that I'm happy about. Because there have been I had one complain about like, oh, why aren't Nick Saldiveri and Jake Haener dressed? And I was like, because you don't need them. What is like you're like there's a point where you're just looking for complaints, and that's one of them.
Now, has Perry pretty much, I won't say unseated, but he's been taking playing time away from Kirkwood, who we I thought actually obviously had a pretty good training camp. We were all over him saying how much he had matured and grown this season, but yeah, hasn't really been a factor at all in the regular season.
Yeah, with Keith, I don't think it's AT that's taking playtime from him. I think it's Lynn Bowden. Because with Keith, what you needed from him is to be that kind of blocking wide receiver, the
right.
replacement for Traquan. And, I think he did have good chemistry with Derek Carr, but he's not on this roster because he's going to catch a ton of passes. He's on this roster because he's going to do the dirty work and he's going to block. And I just don't think his blocking was good enough. And we've seen, I think Lynn's been praised pretty heavily in terms of his ability to block and his ability to, just kind of get in there and get stuff done. And so I think that's more what you're looking at is
okay.
But either way, I think it's a combination, right? Like you're having
sure,
AT in there. He's doing more downfield. And from a physical standpoint, he can probably run the same routes as Keith. Keith, I like Keith. Keith's a good veteran guy to have. He's still around. He's just inactive. And it's kind of funny you talk about like one of the reasons these guys can't get on the field is because this team is as healthy as I've seen it in years. I mean, Kendre Miller went down with an ankle sprain. Doesn't seem mega significant. Isaiah Foskey went down with a quad injury, I believe it was. Right. Another one that doesn't seem super significant, might miss some time, but not like IR level bad. And like that's about it. I mean, you lost Peyton Turner, obviously, early in the season. You had a couple, the Andrew Dowell, Trey Turner, Benjamin. But otherwise, I mean, you've been very fortunate. So, that's why when people complain Nick Saldiveri is not getting any action, it's because he got all these healthy guards.
Yeah, be happy we're not having to turn to the rookie
right
on the offensive line, especially.
Exactly. Like that's what I said is like getting a redshirt year for a mid-round draft pick is not a bad thing. If you could get away with that with every single mid-round pick, you would do it every year. The problem is you can't cut them, and so you only have 48 players active on game day.
I think maybe folks are getting too excited to see what Jordan Howden's doing. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean sometimes they get in and they look really great, and they're ahead of the curve. But just as many times you'll see guys go out there and struggle and lose their confidence and never get back. So I don't know. I'm okay with it. The other thing, pass rush lanes, we talked about it. That was a big problem in this game. I think they improved that as the game went on. And I think, that's just something that we've seen crop up week after week after week with these. And they've happened to face a lot of quarterbacks that can take advantage of that. But at the same time, that's just quarterbacks. Like kids aren't coming out of college now that are pocket bound like statues. Like they just don't exist anymore. That's not what the quarterback position is. So you have to get better at it. Like the Saints were honestly fortunate that they had Tom Brady in the division. So they got 2 shots at a statue twice a year and not just kind of played into what they wanted to do anyway, and Matt Ryan for so long, right?
The problem though, that statue of Tom at least was getting rid of the ball in 2 seconds.
Yeah, but the Saints played him well.
Right, for sure.
It was never like he was never really the reason that they couldn't win the game. It was themselves in a lot of instances, like the Jared Cook fumble and that week 2 game, you could probably give it to him in 2022. But like the game there last year, that wasn't about Tom. That was about the Saints failing to put any points on the board in the second half.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be fair to not talk about Paulson Adebo. He just had such a good game that you kind of like, it's just like he did everything right. I mean, technique wise, no penalties, just in perfect coverage. Like the fact that you feel comfortable saying, we don't care who you line up DJ Moore against. We're going to play our sides. That is such a huge huge compliment to Paulson and Debo, because it means that like you're basically putting them on par with each other in terms of you don't care who they put their star wide receiver on. You feel like either guy can get the job done, and obviously Marshawn's elite in terms of that, but clearly you feel like Paulson is too, and the numbers would bear that out.
Man, you brought up penalties there too. That was something I don't think we brought up at all in the post-game show, how impressive the team was with their lack of penalties against the Bears. Shout out, and even out in the post-game show, Bobby Hebert's like, I hope we get this reffing crew every game.
Yeah, I think there was only one penalty, and it was on Juwan Johnson for a false start.
That was it. One whole penalty in the game. That's amazing for this team.
It's amazing for any team. Yeah. And in such an ugly game too. Like right. It's a game where you like the defining adjective that you could use is ugly. And there were no penalties. I don't know if the Bears got called for a bunch either. They maybe had like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think there might have been, like you said, a handful. But yeah, for me, obviously, seeing the Saints, we know of the problems they've had, and especially when those tight game situations where it seems like you're a 3rd and long, or even on offense when you're trying to convert, something ends up biting them in the rear, and it just didn't happen this game. Nice to see.
Yeah. The one other thing that I'll mention, and you saw this on film, is I gave you the horrible tip to start Jamal Williams in fantasy. I actually didn't tell you to start Jamal Williams in fantasy. I just told you I thought that this could be a big game for him. He was very good as a blocker. Dennis Allen pointed that out, and I think it's worth mentioning it because I don't think we talked about this. Is he's in on a lot of those Taysom Hill sets, and he threw some great blocks in this game. And all we want to talk about is Colin Saunders and and his role as a blocker, and it's a lot of fun. Jamal had a big role in that too, and especially in terms of Taysom Hill. I do think you're seeing the Saints trying to limit the workload of Alvin Kamara right now.
Right.
And especially in instances where they feel like they can get away with it. The Falcons are you're going to play the Falcons in a massive game, and I expect him to get a huge workload in that game. But I do think you're going to meter him a little bit, and you're not going to necessarily give him this crazy snap share, knowing that you have Jamal. Now, if Kendra misses some time, that might factor in, but you obviously have Taysom. So like that's not a mirage. Like they are using him less than we saw in the first few weeks with Jamal not in there.
Yeah, hoping to see more involvement from Jamal Williams, obviously going forward too. This is a guy that had 17 touchdowns last year and just really hasn't been able to find any kind of groove yet here in New Orleans.
Yeah, like you could have we talked about the 4th and inches play in the first segment. It was like,
yeah,
like again, my biggest issue with that is you went for a sneak when you have a guy like Jamal Williams, who's you would qualify as an elite short yardage running back. Like why not? You have Taysom, right? Like there's a lot of options that do not involve Derek Carr, like bowling into the line. I don't know. Use them. That's kind of my I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but either way, I agree. I want to see more from Jamal. I'm glad.
You got to imagine he's frustrated as heck, and he's so much fun that I don't know. I'm just waiting for that. I was hoping you were right for sure to see that explosion from him in this game and do maybe not even the 100 yards in the multi-touchdown game, but just to get up there in like 50, 60 yards maybe with a score, just to get him going. We just haven't seen really much of anything this year, and I don't want to hear a lot of maybe media members or fans complaining, Jamal's looking slow out there. He's not looking like he's ready to be in this offense kind of thing. I'm not really ready to write him off at all. I think there's still a ton that we can see from Jamal Williams. I just don't know how this offense can get him going. But at least the offense as a whole is starting to mature and get better. But there's still some guys, I guess, left out in the cold.
As we mature, the offense matures with us. Yeah, well, I mean, he only had 3 carries in this game. So I don't know how you can, well, what evidence are you pointing to that he can't get it done when he doesn't have the ball? But no, I agree with that. One of the issues involved is like he got a good number of snaps, but when you're on the field with Taysom, those are a lot of either zone reads or called runs. And so he's not necessarily an option on those plays. Even when it is like a zone read and Taysom keeps it, So it's like you can, I don't know, like you can design stuff and say, well, he's an option, but if he doesn't get it, then it's like, well, that wasn't a carry, so that's a snap, that's not a carry. So I'd like to see more action dictated to him. It's funny because I thought for a second there that I was like, oh man, nailed it, because he was on the field for like the first drive, he got consecutive snaps. And I was like, oh, yeah, they're good. And because I do think that was the plan. I think the plan was to run the ball. And the problem is, and you saw this on film too, they could not run the ball. Whether it was, other than Taysom, that's the problem. It's like, other than Taysom Hill, the run game has not been working at all. And my last note that I'll hit here, and it pains me to say this because I really like James Hurst, but he is not a starting NFL left guard. I think he's
a great reserve to have.
He's a better tackle than a guard. And the fact that he can play left tackle, left guard, right tackle, right guard is immensely valuable for this team. I think his leadership in that room is valuable for this team. He's always willing to answer questions. He's always willing to, I think that he is a guy you want to have on your team, but I think he is the 6th offensive lineman unless you're playing him at tackle. But Andres Pete is your best option at left tackle right now. And I think Max Garcia is your best option at left guard. And he should be the starting left guard because he played very well those last 2 games. And as much as I like James Hurst, he is a liability at left guard. And so, I don't know. I would not be surprised if when we get back from the bye week, you see Max Garcia at left guard. And by the end of the season, I expect to see Max Garcia at left guard. I just think it's tough because he is such a good veteran leader on this team that you don't want to sit him down. I mean, it's like, but you hear him say, we want to get our best 5 players on the field.
Yeah.
And I think that Max Garcia is a better guard.
Yeah. The biggest concern to me, though, is where does Trevor Penning fit into all of this?
Well, we know where Trevor Penning is. We can go find him anytime we want.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's surprisingly
it's not on the field.
It's surprisingly Andres Pete at left tackle, which I did not see coming at all.
He's played well.
Absolutely right. I can't deny that either.
Yeah. Who saw that coming? Right. He's indispensable.
He's going to get paid again.
I mean, yeah. A lot of teams could use a tackle / guard right now.
Right.
He's in a contract year. Good for him. That's all. Good for him, right? Because he gets a lot of grief.
Absolutely.
And I don't think he came into this season expecting to play tackle. He got out there and did it.
It's crazy how, I don't know, has he suddenly found his, niche there after all this time? It's like, finally, this is where he should have been all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had Tehran previously.
Right, exactly. So. That's a pretty good option.
Maybe last year, right? Maybe instead of Hurst. But anyway, funny thing. So Andres Pete, I don't know if a lot of people know this. His brother is one of the top basketball recruits in the country. His brother's name is Koa Pete. He's 6'8", and he's a 5-star basketball recruit. He was at the game on Friday.
You're like, yeah, whatever that was.
Yeah, Sunday. They don't play on Fridays. It's
the one day. Wait a minute, Friday?
Yeah. It's the one day of the week that they've never played a football game. They played it on Mondays. They played it on Tuesdays and Wednesdays during COVID. They played it on Thursdays. Actually, no. What? They play it on Fridays now. There's a Black Friday game.
So, that's right. Oh, so where Koa's in high school or right now?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Up his whole family history here.
Right.
Koa Pete. He's 16. He's 6'8".
Wow, that's those Pete genes, man. That's some big people in that family.
Yeah, right. You could say oh, he's he's not the best athlete in the world, but at the same time, is he though? He's 6'8" and he can run around. That's a pretty good athlete.
Yeah.
And his brother's power forward. He's goes to high school in Arizona. Anyway,
who knows? Maybe he ends up on the Pelicans. We'll have double P.
P's and Q's. All right, let's wrap up that segment. We'll come back and we're gonna go on a little bit of a rant. Kind of just talk about, should you be happy right now? And also we're gonna point to our biggest, what are the biggest issues facing the Saints right now? What needs to be fixed for this season to be successful, to get where it needs to go, because there are some issues that are bigger than others. There are a lot of issues, but some are more pressing than others. So we're going to talk about that. This is Inside Black and Gold. I'm Steve Geller. He's Jeff Nowak. As always, this podcast has gone on forever, so you're getting your money's worth.
You just said you're Steve Geller and I'm Jeff Nowak. Yeah, we got to get you.
Well, if we talk long enough, that's going to happen, and Steve's going to circle the drain because he lost his internet connection. But we will be right back. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. I am back to being Jeff Nowak. Steve Geller is back to the land of the living. It's because his laptop died. As a joke. People get it. And so, yeah, we're going to get back into this. This is kind of a look back / look ahead podcast going into week 10. And I think it's important to ask this question. Should Saints fans be happy right now? And I don't think it should be that complicated, but it is. Because, the Saints are on a 2-game winning streak. They beat the Colts. They beat the Bears. They're 5-4 and in first place in the NFC South for the first time since the 2020 season. This time last year, they were 3-9. Last year, it took them until week 15 to win their 5th game. That's crazy, but it's true. Last year, they had, I think, 14 takeaways total. This year, they are tied for first in the NFL with 18.
That to me is unreal for sure. That's the hugest turnaround for me. That's so impressive.
Right. You have 3 wide receivers that you feel like you have a ton of confidence in. You have a quarterback that I know there's highs and lows there. Not everyone loves him and whatever, but you feel like there's a higher floor there than you had last year with Andy Dalton, or that you had the year before that with Trevor Siemian or whatever, right? So you should feel like reasonably confident. You just had 300-yard games in a row. That hasn't happened since 2015. You put up 35 points on the 34 points on the Patriots. You put up 38 points on the Colts. You should have put up more this week. There's a lot to look at and be like, okay, this is a winning team. But when I hear all of the reaction, and maybe this is just the people I'm exposed to, maybe this isn't as wide-reaching as it seems to me, because the angry people are louder than the people who are just like, I'm just happy to watch a winning football team. But, and that's what the Saints are right now. They're over 500. They're a winning football team. But all I hear is oh yeah, we won, but we didn't win by enough. So this team sucks. And it's just that's don't you watch football to have a good time? Isn't winning fun for you? Go look around the NFL. Look at all the teams. Tell me that there aren't a whole lot of teams in worse shape than the Saints right now. And you'll hear people say, well, they sacrificed the opportunity to be good for 15 years to make the playoffs this year. What does that even mean? You sacrifice the opportunity to be the Panthers right now? Would you'd be happier with 1-7? Right? There are only 2 teams in the NFC right now with more than 5 wins. It's the 49ers at 6-3 and the Eagles at 8-1. So should every other team in the NFC be feeling like, oh, we suck?
Yeah, the glorious 49ers that everyone's touted is, the same. No, they're 5-3. Saints are 5-4. So similar records, but yeah, you know what I mean there. I mean,
are they?
San Fran? Yeah, gonna have the bye.
Who's the other 6 and?
Detroit 6-2.
Yeah, Detroit. You're right. I'm sorry, Detroit. Again, and that's a team that got blown out by the Ravens a couple weeks ago.
This has been a weird year in the NFL, I think, overall. And I think I'm sure Dennis Allen's talked about it, or maybe somebody mentioned the fact that scoring is way down this season. And I just think you're just seeing a lot of weird things happen in games too. I mean, I don't think anyone expected the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints have the same record right now. I mean, to me, that's wild.
Well, I mean, let's go through it. Okay.
So,
Bucks 3-5, Falcons 4-5, Saints 5-4, Packers 3-5, Vikings 5-4, which is pretty crazy in its own right. Lions 6-2, right. Cardinals 1-8, Rams 3-6, Seahawks 5-3, 49ers 5-3, Giants 2-7, Commanders 4-5, Cowboys 5-3, Eagles 8-1. You go over to the AFC, and there's a few more top-heavy teams in the AFC than the NFC. So you got the Dolphins 6-3, Chiefs 7-2, Ravens 7-2. Everyone in the AFC North is over 500, which is pretty crazy. Everyone in the AFC North has a better record than everyone in the AFC South or NFC South. It's kind of weird because all three teams are 5-3, although the Steelers are frauds. Jaguars 6-2, and then 4-4 Texans, 4-5 Colts, 3-5 Titans. So I mean, like, yeah, you could be the Texans right now, but you could also be the Panthers, right? There are no guarantees, and all I know is this team is capable of winning. And I guess I just get frustrated because like, there seems to be a much bigger investment in being right than just supporting a team. And it should not be that way. Like, you can say, yeah, I don't think this team is that good. And I might not necessarily like the decisions, but you can't just go and enjoy a team that's winning games. Like, that's not about the team. That's about you. And I just think when people are sitting there saying like, oh, they didn't win by enough, blah, 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 it's because they want this team to be bad enough that everyone gets fired. And I don't know. Is that why you watch sports? For people to lose their jobs?
Right. Is it things haven't been that bad where you're like, please get Dennis Allen out of here. He's killing the organization.
Exactly. But people, there's a I don't know how big it is, but there is a subset.
Right.
And it's probably a lot of the people I hear from because they have an agenda and they're loud. That were like, well, the Saints are not bad enough right now to fire the coach. And so I'm mad about that. And I am going to veil that in criticism of we only beat another NFL team by 7 points. And that's a problem. And like, yeah, sure, you should have put up more points. But you also just beat an NFL team by 7 points. You scored 24. It's not like you went out there and won 7-0. You scored 24 points. The defense let up more points than you wanted. They still held the other team to 17. I don't know. Like, I don't want to come off as preachy here. I'm just like, I'm tired of answering the same questions of like why is it impossible for people to get behind this team?
For whatever reason, there's some folks that they have that in their mind that Dennis Allen is a failure. Pete Carmichael Jr. is the wrong guy calling the shots. He's not aggressive enough. And for whatever reason, yeah, the Saints, they overspent on Derek Carr. He's a waste of money. But to me, I always laugh. It's like, did you spend anything on him kind of thing? You know, is it coming out of your pocket? I get it affects the team in the long run with, you know, salary cap, blah, 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 blah. But overall, to me, 5-4, you should be happy right now. Obviously, winning record, like you mentioned, above 500. You're atop the NFC South. And it's been a wackadoo year. You mentioned, like you said, too, it's like the Eagles and Detroit Lions are the only teams over 6 wins right now. So what more do you want? I do understand the fans' frustrations at times, especially you just came away from a game with 5 takeaways. Yeah. You only
I understand.
But overall, yeah, the spirits and the outlook should be a lot more happier than they are, instead of everybody being black and gold gloomy. I definitely don't like that. You know, I didn't feel like the victory
black and gloomy
was celebrated as much.
Black and gloomy. I like it.
Dark and gloomy, black and gloomy, everything, right?
Black and gold doomy. Black and gold doom. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just it's frustrating because I mean, I'm just out here covering the team. I'm just kind of following it every day and relaying information back. And it's like a lot of stuff I share it's like immediately gets co-opted into one agenda or another, whether it's an anti-Derek Carr agenda or a pro-Derek Carr agenda or a anti-DA agenda or whatever. And it's like, this is just information, guys. This is a football team that you tell me you're a fan of. So I'm sharing information that you should be interested in. And it's immediately co-opted. And it's like, the goalposts move. That's what drives me nuts the most. Is like, oh, okay, so now winning 10 games and getting to the playoffs isn't like before it was impossible. Before it couldn't happen, right? Before it was like Dennis Allen's a losing head coach. He'll always be a losing head coach. His team's never going to get to the playoffs. His team's never going to win anything meaningful. Now that they're in first place in the NFC South, what I'm hearing is, oh, they're going to win 10 games because of an easy schedule, and then they're going to lose in the first round, and that's not worth it to me. Like,
right.
What's the point of being a fan of a team if you can't get behind a playoff team and hope for the best?
I don't know why everyone's so cranky.
It's so weird. It really is. And it's just like,
maybe I guess Drew's gone and Sean's gone. I don't know. Is you lost Drew and Sean, so now all hope is gone?
I think there's this idea that anything new is better, and it's not true.
No, definitely not true.
Like you look around the NFL and all the failed coaches. Look at the Raiders. I don't know.
Yeah, poor DA when he gets lumped in with, oh, look at his past record. Look where he was, for crying out loud.
Yeah, right. The Raiders haven't gotten basically any better since he was there.
No.
I mean, like, what have the Raiders done since 2014? I think they made the playoffs twice with Derek Carr. But yeah, I don't know. And I just like, I have a good time watching this team win. But it's like, I feel like just having a fun time watching the Saints play is greeted with resentment. And it's so, I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting.
You're just a homer and you get paid by the Saints.
I wish.
I know. I wish I got paid by the Saints too.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't get anything out of this.
No, that's definitely, I think a lot of perception is that we're just like these cheerleaders for the team that's trying to sell fans on why they should be supportive sometimes. And yeah, I understand what the frustration there, because it's like, yeah, as a fan, you're supposed to have this unbridled, blind faith in your squad. And it just seems, I don't know, black and gold folks have gotten too spoiled, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, see, I don't necessarily need that. Like, you can be critical. People can be critical.
But when they do well, you should be happy.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a big percentage of the fan base right now. And maybe it's not true. Again, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's just the people I deal with. But it seems like there's a big...
Too much time on social media with all the trolls.
Yeah, and it's bad. I should just get off social media entirely. But, it's like... part of me feels like this team can go out, win 10 games, make the playoffs, host a playoff game, and it would just be complaints the whole way. And like part of what's fun about sports, part of what makes sports such a great thing is that it's a community where you're all pulling in the same direction. And you don't have any control over what happens on the field, but you care about it and you're invested in it. And right now it just feels like there's more of an investment in being right than having a good time. And I watch sports to have a good time. I don't know about you. I don't watch sports to make political points or tell people they suck or, I watch sports because it's fun for me. And football doesn't feel fun right now. It feels like I'm constantly on the defensive.
Right. I totally agree. Right.
And I don't know. And like, I feel like I'm pretty critical of this team when it deserves it. Right. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't know. Like I told y'all, like, Pete Carmichael should lose his job a couple weeks ago. They didn't do it. What am I supposed to do? Not watch the games?
It definitely, the perception or negativity keeps piling on. And yeah, I thought a 2-game win streak would definitely quell some of the naysayers. But I will say, I haven't heard anybody calling for Carmichael's job this week, at least.
Well, that's the thing. That's what's so annoying. Is like, at least be consistent. Like, the goalposts move. Now it's Dennis Allen again, right? Like, now we're back to that.
Right.
And if they go out to Minnesota and lose this week, it'll be who knows what it'll be. It'll probably be back to Pete Carmichael. I don't know. I just I keep waiting for, it's like at a certain point you'd like to think that people could just drop the agenda part of it and just get on board with a team that's winning a couple football games and is headed in the right direction And again, I hope that's the case for I'm sure that is the case for a lot of people. A lot, and that's like, I've seen comments where people are like, oh no, you're not really a fan if you're just okay with this and this. And it's like, you're only a real fan if you're invested in the long term and you want this to go this way so that everyone loses their jobs. And I'm like, I think you don't understand that a lot of people just watch these games because they want to have fun and they want to enjoy themselves.
I forget what that was like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, it'd be interesting to see really if the majority of fandom is like that right now, but it feels like it. And that might be unfair because of, like I was saying, the social media trolls that you kind of surround yourself with. But I mean, there's definitely a large facet of folks that 5-4 right now, they still say this Saints team sucks, and that's not fair at all.
Yeah, and I would respond to that by saying then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
There's a
13,
lot of sucky
14,
teams.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20, 25 NFL teams suck right now because they don't have more than 5 wins.
Right.
Anyway. With that in mind,
you know what, Dolphins, we mentioned the 6-win teams. Obviously, Dolphins, one of them. I know a lot of folks, I don't know if fans are, but there are analysts already calling them frauds because they only beat losing teams.
Fair. Like it's funny, like Brian Dable was like the darling last year with the Giants, and now it's like, oh, what's he doing wrong? Like he's starting Danny DeVito at quarterback. What a choice.
No, exactly.
Can't believe he went that route. Anyway, so with all that in mind, let's bitch about the Saints for a second.
Right. Now we get to complain.
Yeah. With all that in mind, after that long rant about complaints, let's come up with our biggest complaint. Like when you look at this roster, what is the biggest issue that you think has to be fixed? There's a lot of issues. Every team has problems. You got to fix it. The run game has to be better. That has to be better. But there's always one thing that rides, like the mission critical thing that you see that needs to be fixed for this team to get where it needs to go.
Coming out flat, slow, whatever you want to call it to start games. It's gotten old. Don't like watching it. Gets frustrating. I don't want to start biting my nails going, what's going to happen after the halftime? I would like to see the team come out fully prepped and ready for once. It just doesn't feel like whatever does click after the half. I don't know why I can't start in the beginning of the games, but especially now this run of more of your divisional opponents, and the rest is all NFC. So this last stretch of games, if you want to call it that, are so key and vital to making the playoffs. But those slow starts, it's gonna come and bite you in the ass eventually. We've seen it done in games before. Before this 2-game win streak, before we were streaking, it wasn't so glorious. And that's one thing. It's like you got to keep putting them together, obviously stringing the W's. And this week in Minnesota, it's going to be key, especially against those damn Vikings who are always a pain in the rear for the Saints. Come out in Minnesota right off the get in a dome stadium and set the tone against them. They're not a team either that's got their starting quarterback. Once again, you're going to be dealing with the backup. Might be an intelligent, hella smart backup, but still a backup.
He is hella smart. No, and I agree. It's funny because like we just spent all that time kind of critiquing the unreasonable complaints about this team, but one that I think is very fair. And it's like, if you're telling me this, then I'm like, yeah, you're on point. This is an easy schedule, and and somehow it's only gotten easier with the Josh Dobbs and Tyson Bagent and Gardner Minshew. I mean Taylor Heineke. Like I said, I think they're actually better with Taylor Heineke, but not with Tommy DeVito. with the Giants is going to be week 15 probably. Maybe Tyrod Taylor's back. Either way, you can get
another
that
backup,
done.
right?
And so like, yeah, like one of the luxuries you have at this point is you can have those slow starts and it doesn't burn you in the end because you're able to figure it out. And Tyson Bagent isn't good enough to make it hurt in the end. Seemed like he might early on, but he felt, they turned the ball over 5 times. Like they didn't cross midfield in the fourth quarter of that game. So, he clearly did not have the juice to finish that. He started well, not finished, but that's not always going to be the case, right? You are eventually going to find a quarterback who started the season. Jared Goff and the Lions is going to be the first one you face in a while. And you're not going to beat the Lions if you spot them 14 points.
Right.
So I agree with that. Mine, it's tough. There's a lot of problems, like you could say kicker, place kicker. I don't think that's the biggest issue. I think it's an issue, but I think it's one that you can figure out and live with. Punter, I feel like you're getting closer to league average. Like you've seen, as long as you protect Lou, you're fine. I don't want to put him in a ton of situations where he's constantly kicking from the shadow of his own goalpost. And if I do that, it's on me, right? So it's not on me, it's on them, but you get it. It's not on him. That's what I'm saying. You can blame me. It's my fault. The more reasonable person to blame would be Darren Rizzi because he put Lou in that situation. You know what's funny? And this is just a note because we're talking about Lou Hedley right now. I went and looked, and so Blake Gillikin's out there in Arizona. He's averaging 51 yards a punt. And everyone's like, oh my God, he's averaging 51 yards a punt. And we got Lou Hedley. He's like hitting these little dribblers. You know what Blake's net punting averages?
What is it?
39.7.
Wow.
You know what Lou Hedley's net punting averages?
Go ahead. What is it?
39.7.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Exact same.
So I thought it was going to be higher. Unfortunately, not.
Yeah, but it's just funny to me because like there's people who would seem to. It's like you would feel better about it if he kicked it 60 yards and they returned it 12 yards.
Just because it looked prettier and hung up.
Because it looked cool. Because it went so far. But if he kicks it 48 yards and they don't return it, somehow that's not as good. I would argue that it's better because if they return it 12 yards, there's a chance they return it more. And then you could say, okay, well, your situation there only allows for the idea that they return it and not that they don't return it 12 yards, which fair, you got me. But at the same time, it's really hard to kick the ball that far and cover. You've heard the term out kicked your coverage, right? Happens. It's a thing. And so like, I don't know. It's just funny to me that like, I feel like people, just the perception of it, if someone watched a 60-yard punt that was returned 12 yards and then watched a 48-yard punt that didn't get a return at all, which is literally what happened in this last game, that they would take the 60-yard punt over the 48-yard punt. But it's the exact same.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just find it funny. And like I said, Lou Hedley, Blake Gillikin, literally the exact same net punting yardage.
That's so odd.
It is odd. But I think Blake's out there just trying to prove himself. So he's hitting these like low liners, like little worm burner drives. Anyway,
I remember for a while it was like his first punt was always like the shaky one, and I feel like that's
continued. That actually has continued.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. The first punt of the game because he did that against the Colts. His first punt of the game was like it was inside the 20. Which I think it's like inside the 20 is such a lame stat. You should give me inside the 10, right? First of all, but inside the 20, but it was like the 18, and it was like a 32-yard punt, and it was like that's not good. It's inside the 20, but it's still not ideal. That said, he had a kick he had a kick at the 9, he had one down to the 3. In this last game, he had 2 inside the 10, 1 at the 2. So like those are the real ones, but yeah, but like the first kick of the game has been tough for whatever reason. I don't know. He just needs to get into it. He also had that
goes
kick
into the team with the slow starts. It's like how do we flip that?
He almost had that kick that was blocked, or he had a kick that was almost blocked in this game. And so someone was like, "Oh, he almost ran into a block." And I was like, "Well, we're holding almost blocked against the punter now. Like, what is this? What are we really complaining about here?"
Anything to bitch about for sure.
Yeah, it's like you're looking for anything, but and I don't need to. We've been on this forever, and I talked a lot about it. in the first segment. And I think one thing that has to be fixed on this team, and Dennis Allen is aware of it because he talked about it and I talked about it, and I think they are going to work on it, is rush lanes. Rush lanes. It sounds so simple, but God, like they're leaving these gaping holes every week. Like you would think, okay, Trevor Lawrence took advantage of us in this way. We saw it happen. It was blatant what we did wrong, and we've got to fix it. Well, 3 weeks later, you're doing the same shit, and you're just, and that's why DA is fed up, because this is something they have talked about every week, and it's still happening. And so that's on Todd Grantham, that's on the players, it's on the coaches. You got to be better, because it is very much 4 guys, sometimes 5, trying to just all rush the quarterback and all get a sack. And no one is stopping to consider, well, is this the right way to rush the quarterback? Or should I maintain my leverage here because that guy just went outside? And, I asked Tano about this earlier in the season, Tano Passanio, about like, do you guys have like plays on the defensive line? Do you say, okay, I'm going to do this, so you do that? And he said, no, not really. And I think that's pretty normal. Is you're not necessarily like, sometimes you'll be like, okay, running a stunt here, we're doing this. But when you're just rushing, it's not like, okay, you're doing the spin move and I'm doing a bull rush. It's kind of like a read and react thing. And I think that's why it's so difficult to fix, because it's not like you can just call different like rushes for that's an oversimplification, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so much of it is in the moment, reacting to what's happening and winning. And so, but it can't be win at all costs. It can't be, I'm going to rush however I have to get by this guy. Because when you do that, unless you're an end or they're in like 3rd and 20, you're leaving these gigantic holes. And on the Saints in particular, where you play a lot of man coverage, the defensive backs are running upfield with their backs turned, and they're not going to be in position to come down and make a tackle. And that's what happened on that 3rd and 12 play. That's what happened on that 2nd and 10 play where Tyson Bagent ran for 20 yards. That's what happened against Trevor Lawrence time after time after time. And, you're going to get to a point where, you make the playoffs, right? Like you do what you need to do and you get into the playoffs. Well, what kind of quarterback do you think you're going to find in the playoffs? You're going to find quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence, right? You're going to find the Lamar Jackson. You're going to find a Justin Fields. And if you are continuing to rush the passer, Jalen Hurts.
Although I will say, at least I think Rod Walker put it out. If the playoffs started today,
it'd be Geno Smith.
It would be Geno, right?
You know who can actually run? Geno Smith.
Very true. Very true.
So like you're not gonna. There's no such thing as these statuesque quarterbacks anymore. Only the Saints have that. So like, to me, that's mission critical, and it might not feel mission critical right now because you're not facing the top end quarterbacks. But this is where you have to figure that out, because if you are still making these mistakes when you get to those matchups, I mean, you're going to be an underdog if you face the Eagles either way. You are not going to have a chance in hell if you're letting Jalen Hurts rush for 100 yards. So that's it. That's mine.
Tush push or not, right?
Yeah. Tush push. Tush push. All right. That's it.
Who that, baby? Yeah. No, just getting ready for, putting that game behind us and trying to get that 3rd straight W going into the bye week, I think would change a lot of that negative perception. It's hard to be, the dark cloud raining on you when you're on a 3-game win streak going into the bye.
I hope so. I wonder though. I kind of don't feel like it. Like, I feel like if they're going to go out to Minnesota and, Minnesota, they win by 5, right? Whatever. And they go into the bottom like, why you only beat them by 5 and you face Josh Dobbs.
When we come back, we got to go to Atlanta. We got to lose in Atlanta. It's terrible.
Atlanta is terrible.
Man, I'm seeing all the stuff on social media about the usage of Bijan Robinson. It's making me laugh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Arthur Smith's out there shaving his mustache and stuff. Yeah.
But no, I'm definitely looking forward. Every year that matchup, obviously the Falcons, we all joke, they're not really a rival. You got to win more in the series to be rivals. But the moves they made this year, obviously, bringing Ryan Nielsen and then him attracting some former Saints over there, have definitely heightened things a bit.
4 and 5, baby. That's Atlanta.
Keep burying them. Keep burying the birds.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for us here on this super upbeat episode of Inside Black and Gold. Thanks for allowing me to bitch at you for however long that took. Thanks, everyone, for listening. As always, I'm Jeff Nowak. He's Steve Geller. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. You can follow Steve at Steve Geller WWL, the show at Saints_pod. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Follow us on YouTube at WWL Sports and wherever you get your podcasts. Hit the subscribe button, rate and review, do all that stuff. Go Saints. Who dat? Fun stuff. Woohoo.
Be miserable curmudgeons with us.
It's a good word. I like it. I am very curmudgeonly. That is true. In every other aspect of my life.
Right.
All right, y'all. Be easy. Peace.